And joining me right now from the other border that we are watching is Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty. He is live at the World Trade Bridge in Laredo, Texas. He sits on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, thanks very much for being here. And I know you've learned a lot being there in Laredo. You've been to the border many times. I want to get to that in a moment. But first, give us your assessment of what has taken place here in Ukraine and the U.S.'s slow response to sending the weapons that the Ukrainians so badly need.
Well, we'll talk about the U.S. slow response to national security issues because I want to talk about what's happening right here at the border where there's no response. But I was, again, surprised and pleased to see President Zelensky step up and say he's going to do what it takes to protect his people. A crisis last night uncovered near Kiev, 300 bodies, Maria, found in a mass grave. That's tragic. I think the world feels that tragedy. 300 bodies found in a mass grave. But Maria, let me tell you this. That's equivalent to one night of death from overdoses to our youth here in America. One night's worth of fentanyl death coming across this border right here. Yet nobody's talking about this. You've been the best of all in terms of covering this in the media, but no one's talking about what's happening right here to our own nation with, tremendous amounts of illicit drugs coming across the border. Again, killing probably at least as many kids last night, 300 here in America, as were found buried near Kiev.
Yeah, I think this is such an important point that you bring up, Senator, and thank you for making the point. I've been to the border 4 times, and I've watched the evolution, and apparently we're told it's about to get much worse. Late on Friday, the Biden administration confirmed it is revoking Title 42. I spoke with the president of the Border Council right before the president made that assessment, and he predicted what's to come. Here's Brandon Judd. Watch this.
This is a scary situation, and it's just getting scarier by the day because this administration will not enact policy that will allow us to protect the border.
So, Senator, you've been on the ground there at the border. What can you tell us? What has struck you most?
Maria, I was here Friday. This is my 3rd day here on the border. I was here Friday evening when they put together what they call the evening muster. The leadership came out to tell the Border Patrol agents that indeed the President of the United States decided to lift the Title 42. That's the last tool that they have left to send people back to, back across the border. There was just a complete cloud of depression that fell over the room, Maria. That's the last tool left. They're already overwhelmed. They've got capacity to process perhaps 5,000 coming across the border. They're now getting 7,000. This could go to 15,000, 18,000 overnight. In fact, what the president has done is send an invitation to come to America. May 23rd, the border's going to collapse. There's going to be a tidal wave coming across this border. It's going to be a mass of drugs coming across the border, illegal activity, and there's going to be a tidal wave of humanity coming across the border at the same time. This is going to be a disaster of epic proportions.
So right now, border agents told me that they're apprehending about 5,000 to 7,000 people a day. Actually, Brandon Judd said it was 7,000 people a day in the last several weeks. He said, and other border agents have told us, they're expecting that number to shoot up to 18,000 people a day. How are our border agents going to handle 18,000 apprehensions a day? And that's not even including the gotaways, those people we've seen on surveillance camera that are well into America at this point.
Maria, here's what's going to happen. They're not going to be able to protect the border at all. They're going to be spending the entirety of their time processing paperwork because without Title 42, which can be handled in about 15 minutes, they have to go through a different process that takes an hour and 15 minutes. It'll take 5 times as many border agents to process the number of people coming across. It's going to be all paperwork, no border protection. The border's going to be open. I'm sure that the Chinese Communist Party is ramping up fentanyl production right now in China. They're shipping it to Mexico. The Mexican cartels are ramping up. There's going to be another flood of illegal drugs coming across the border, particularly after the 23rd of May.
Well, look at all of these illicit narcotics coming into the country. Fentanyl, you mentioned a moment ago, 100,000 overdoses because of fentanyl. This is made in China, and it's trafficked through Mexico. Why haven't we heard a peep about this at the White House?
It's amazing to me. I brought mayors and sheriffs on this trip with me, mayors and sheriffs from Tennessee, Maria, because we're feeling it in our home state. We're losing kids to overdoses every night and every day. The mayor of one of our smallest counties, Scott County, told me that she had 27 deaths due to overdoses in her county last year, 23 of them from fentanyl. The Chinese Communist Party's fingerprint is on every one of those deaths in my home state, Maria. They are waging war on us. Maria, I was on the phone with White House staff during the G20 conference in Buenos Aires when President Trump directly told President Xi he should not send fentanyl to the United States. President Trump demanded it. President Xi agreed. But President Xi never agreed to stop sending it to Mexico. And when Joe Biden decided to collapse the border here, basically he's opened the door for the Chinese Communist Party to again begin to wage war on America's youth, and that's exactly what's happening.
Well, it's incredible to me. We know Xi Jinping's overall goals. They want to overtake the United States as the #1 superpower. What are they doing? Trying to kill us off here with this fentanyl on top of the COVID disaster 2 years ago?
The numbers speak to it, Maria. Again, they're flooding the border, working with their partners, the illegal cartels. If you think about who the biggest winners are with Joe Biden's border policy, it's the Chinese Communist Party and these billion-dollar criminal enterprises here that are the Mexican cartels that not only control the entirety of the Mexican side of the border, but they're actually moving into Laredo, where I am right now. They're controlling stash houses. They're influencing neighborhoods. They're destroying life here on this side of the border, too.
And one of the border agents told me when I was there that these drug cartels are making $100 million a week. $100 million a week. Senator, stay with us. We want to slip in a short break. But after the break, I've got to ask you about deal-making with terrorists. The Biden administration is moving to return the United States to the Iran nuclear deal and likely wants Iranian oil on the market to get prices lower. Can they get around Congress to do it? We're back in 2 minutes' time with Senator Bill Hagerty, live at the southern border.
We should not in any way get back in this Iran deal. We shouldn't do any negotiations with them. The only way we should do this is if we have our Arab partners that are involved in it that know how deadly and lethal Iran can be. We should not be doing this. And, you know, it's bad enough that Biden leaned on China to go get help with Russia. I mean, you're going and you're leaning on one enemy to get help with another. I never told China anything I didn't want Russia to know. I mean, this is just naive, and it's just, this is weak on every level. It's why we're continuing to have the problems, is because the U.S. is being foolish about how we're dealing with our situations.
And that was former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley on this program last month. We are back with Senator Bill Hagerty. He sits on the Foreign Relations Committee. He is at the southern border this week and has been watching the carnage on the ground. Senator, is the U.S. returning to the Iran deal, and why?
Well, it certainly appears that the Biden administration is doing everything they can to move in that direction. It's so foolhardy, but yet again, another example of President Trump taking a decision that was best for America, getting us out of that deal, and the Biden administration doing everything they can to undo President Trump's great policies just to, support their own vanity. President Trump is going to be proven right again here with Iran, the world's greatest sponsor of terror. We're talking about putting tens of billions of dollars into their hands, talking about putting them on the path to a nuclear weapon and completely destabilizing the Middle East. We heard nothing of the Abraham Accords since the Biden administration took office. President Trump achieved a tremendous victory there in terms of the possibility for peace and economic prosperity in the region. The Biden administration is willing to set that to the side immediately. They're going to do everything they can to go back to the failed policies of the Obama administration, just like they've done here at the border. President Trump had the wall funded here in Laredo, where I am. There is no wall here, Maria. It's a tragedy. It's chaos here. If you look around the globe, every place that the Biden administration has taken an action to undo President Trump's good policies, we've suffered, and nowhere more so than with domestic energy. Americans are feeling this every day at the pump. The Biden administration came in and killed our domestic energy policy. They've waged war on the domestic oil and gas industry, and you've seen the inflation repercussions around America.
I don't understand why. What is the motivation, Senator? I mean, you're there at the border. You are seeing what the border agents are up against, trying to control and keep the law in place. It is no law at all. Wide open borders. Senator Marsha Blackburn told me that already they have apprehended at least 34 people who were on the terrorist watch list. So obviously we don't even know who's coming in and what their intentions are. There is an immigration structure in place. We give out 1 million green cards a year, and yet the administration is allowing all of these people, 18,000 people a day expected, to cut the line and break ahead of people who are trying to get here legally.
It's unbelievable, Maria. And just to go beyond that, the national security crisis that Senator Blackburn mentioned is enormous. They've apprehended 157 different nationalities here at this border since President Biden took office. 157 different nationalities. The UN only recognizes 195 countries. This is a massive national security crisis. And people keep asking me, Why don't the Democrats do something about this? What's the motivation? Well, their big dollar donors, I'm certain, are happy to have cheap labor coming across this border. But even worse, it's the cynical thought that Democrat politicians with their sanctuary cities are trying to change the map, trying to change the electoral map for themselves in a way that is incredibly cynical, and they're willing to put Americans at risk. They're willing to lose 100,000 lives a year to overdoses. It's amazing what they'll do for search of power.
Unbelievable. Are you satisfied with the briefings that you've gotten on the Iran deal? You're on Foreign Affairs. You should be briefed. Can he push the U.S. back into this deal without Congress's input at all?
Maria, it certainly appears they're going to try to do this. They're going to try to go around the Congress again, not submit it as a treaty as it should be. Well, let me be clear. What that means is as soon as a Republican takes office back in 2024, that deal is going to be torn up again. We've got a process called INARA. They'll probably try to avoid that as well, but we're going to do everything we can to exert congressional oversight. I've tried to put legislation forward. The problem is I can't get Democrat support to do that. But I know that my Democrat colleagues see the folly in this as well. This is a major national security crisis.
And real quick on the national security crisis, once Title 42 is lifted, what are you hearing in terms of how things are going to change in the coming months now that the administration late on Friday confirmed what we expected, that the CDC is saying Title 42 is going away?
What I'm hearing here on the border, Maria, is that we're going to see a human tidal wave across this border. We're going to see a humanitarian crisis beyond anything you're seeing on the planet right now. What I've seen here the past 3 days on the ground are babies being left as distractions. We've seen drugs moving across this border in record proportion. We've seen children that have been subject to sexual abuse. This is horrible.
Wow. Senator, thanks very much for your leadership and for being at the border this week. We appreciate it. Thanks for being here, Senator Bill Hagerty.